Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today, we're taking a trip back to the 1980s with the Coleco head-to-head hockey. Coleco's electronic hockey first debuted at the legendary Winter CES of 1980 in Las Vegas. In a press release, the LED display is touted as large and clear, and the piezoelectric beeps of sound add to the excitement. I'm pretty excited to see and hear this thing go. This little handheld was a big deal back in the day, bringing fast-paced two-player hockey action to your fingertips. But as you can see, my unit has seen better days, so make sure you're subscribed with the bell icon turned on, smash that like button, and let's take a trip back to the 80s. In 1961, Coleco was formed after company restructuring of the Connecticut Leather Company, which was founded originally in 1932. Coleco is just a shortened form of the Connecticut Leather Company. Man, that's a tongue twister. Yes, one of the biggest names in electronic gaming in the 1970s and 80s started as an apparel products and machinery manufacturer. In addition to leather products, they also manufactured machinery like shoe cleaners. But by the 50s, they began to diversify into plastic products and toys, and by the 1970s, broke into the electronic games market. Coleco had large success and is well known for its Cabbage Patch Kids toys, as well as the ColecoVision products, both of which I'm sure you're familiar with. Although perhaps slightly less memorable, Coleco had success with their head-to-head series as well, featuring sports like baseball, basketball, and of course, hockey. These games used LED lights instead of traditional screens, but at that time that was pretty state-of-the-art handheld gaming. When plugging in the 9-volt battery, it appears to work, but is completely unresponsive to button presses, and the switches are far from smooth. This thing is in desperate need of some love. After 40 plus years, we do have to be careful not to crack any of the plastic parts or clips when disassembling. Before going any further though, let's give it a quick scrub. This thing is absolutely filthy. And while I'm cleaning, this is the perfect opportunity to make sure you're subscribed. Visually, this thing is pretty immaculate inside. It is extremely fortunate that the battery was previously removed and the battery terminals look fantastic. The electronics are pretty simple in these old units. The entire device is powered by a Texas Instruments TMS-1000, which was the first commercially available SoC of its kind, integrating a 4-bit microcontroller, RAM, ROM, and I/O ports. Connected to the I/O are the LEDs and LED display through two SN75492N LED display driver chips, as well as several simple contact pads with metal button domes for player input. This is truly a simple device by today's standards, but the integrated microcontroller made it pretty advanced for its time. To start troubleshooting, we have two capacitors in the circuit. The TMS-1000 has an internal oscillator and supports an external one as well. Without an external crystal, the ceramic capacitor is used to generate the internal clock. Without diving too deep, I suspected the electrolytic cap is responsible for power filtering and presume it to be fine since there's no leaking or short-circuiting. Since we can't accurately measure capacitance in circuit, I've lifted a leg of each to take a measurement. With my little cheapy meter, I'm measuring around 18 microfarads at the electrolytic compared to its rated 15 microfarads, so it doesn't seem that this one has any internal short or open circuit. I got excited when I saw 0.27 nanofarads on the one rated for 100 picofarads, but then I realized the replacement capacitor I was going to use was reading the exact same, so it looks like both capacitors are functionally alright, and perhaps I need to invest in a better meter. I did notice the switches were a bit flaky and began to wonder if there was some sort of a signal problem related to the switch. Since the Switch required refurbishing anyway, I thought I'd better go ahead with it at this point before doing any further troubleshooting. It appears the switches were just assembled dry, but it seems like they should have some sort of grease for smoother operation. Although the pads on the board looked pretty good, the switch contactors were somewhat oxidized. After cleaning everything really well, I applied some synthetic grease to the moving parts. It's important to note here that you can't just use any sort of grease for this stuff. Greases and lubricants that contain petroleum products, such as lithium-based greases, will react and deteriorate plastics and rubbers. It's important to use products that are compatible with all the materials that they come in contact with. With the switches reinstalled, they are working a lot smoother. But this didn't resolve the original problem. I do notice that if I press the buttons enough times, occasionally something happens. It seems like the button contacts, despite looking clean on the outside, are not making good contact internally. I did end up fully removing the buttons and cleaning the pads and domes and then reassembling. The original tape seems similar to packing tape for some reason. However, I thought Captain Tape is a much more appropriate product to use in this application. Wow, absolutely amazing. With all the buttons refurbished, the game appears to be working properly again. So it appears that the game wasn't actually frozen, but was just waiting for user input. Now let's finish by reassembling everything. I like the process we've made so far, and I hope you do too. Now it's time for the final test. Thanks to archive.org, I found the original instruction manual. The one on the back of my unit is French, and I had enough trouble understanding the English instructions. The first page shows what each button and symbol is for, super helpful. I haven't tested how long the batteries lasted in this game, but apparently Coleco expected people to be playing long enough to warrant selling a specialty AC adapter, which they called the battery eliminator. To get the game started, you have to hold one of the pass buttons and press the display button at the same time. You can then pass the puck around the opposing defenseman and find an opening at net, pressing the shoot button to score a goal. You have to make sure that your puck is at one of the forward players in order to be able to make a shot on net. It's more difficult to get a goal than it looks. If you're playing against a human opponent, the other end will need to move the defense player and the goalie around to block the shots. Now that we've got it all working, is the Coleco head-to-head hockey still fun today? It doesn't deliver the same level of action that people expect from today's games, but this thing is truly still loads of fun to play with. If you grew up with one of these, there's definitely some nostalgia here which plays into the entertainment value. The gameplay is simple, but surprisingly engaging, especially if you have a second player. This isn't on the same playing field as a modern Steam Deck or even a vintage Game Boy. It's like comparing apples to ghost peppers. But it provides a heartwarming form of exhilaration that draws you further and further into the game as you try to dominate your opponent, or the TMS 1000 if you're playing solo. While most people may not find value in having one of these on deck, it's not a bad pickup if you love classic gaming history and can snag one up for cheap. So there you have it. Our Coleco head-to-head hockey is back in action, just like it was when it was released in 1980. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe with the bell icon turned on, and let me know in the comments, did you ever own one of these? What is your favorite vintage handheld? Thanks for watching. Stay curious, keep tinkering, and until next time, happy retrocomputing, everyone.